Finally, there is a resolution to the James Cook situation.
You are Locked On Bills, your daily Buffalo Bills podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Bills Mafia? It's Joe Marino, author of the Herd Mentality Substack, co-host of the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast, co-host of the NFL First Read Podcast, and I'm your host of Locked On Bills. Want to thank you for making Locked On Bills your first listen every day, and a big welcome and shout out to our everydayers. You know who you are. Those of you who never miss a single episode, I appreciate y'all being here very, very much. I'd also like to invite you to subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Well, folks, welcome in. There is a resolution regarding the Bills and James Cook. Things have changed. And the Bills and James Cook reached a 4-year, $48 million contract extension with $30 million guaranteed. It happened. And it's been a journey going back to February when James Cook pinned a comment on his own Instagram Live saying he wanted $15 million a season, sitting out anything that was voluntary, showing up to camp, practicing for the first week and a half, then all of a sudden holding in, warming up against the Giants, and then not playing. And then the hold in continues, but then it quickly changes, and he practices yesterday, and today we have a contract extension. So I want to tell you how I feel about this thing. We'll break down what we know about the deal and focus on moving forward and putting the saga, the drama, if you will, behind us. So this deal comes in at $12 million per season average annual salary, which is exactly the amount that I found to be reasonable. That was kind of in my head, even going back to February when we were talking about what's the right number, what's a fair number. That's where we landed. And the talking point that I had was 15 million's just not reasonable. That's not a reasonable number. And James did all he could to get 15. He forced the issue as hard as he could. Shot for the moon. But ultimately, reality prevailed here and a deal got done. So in terms of average annual salary, $12 million, like I said, James Cook, seventh highest paid running back in the NFL, or I guess tied for sixth. Number one is Saquon Barkley at 20.6. Christian McCaffrey, number 2 at 19. Derrick Henry, number 3 at 15. Jonathan Taylor, number 4 at 14. Alvin Kamara, number 5 at 12 and a quarter. Then you have Josh Jacobs and James Cook at number 6 at $12 million. Now keep in mind, Josh Jacobs' $12 million entering 2024 is not the same as James Cook's $12 million entering 2025 because the cap went up. And then at number 8, you have Aaron Jones and Kyron Williams at $11 million. In terms of APY, it comes in at a reasonable spot. And you know me, I care a lot about percentage of cap at signing. I think that's really important as the cap continues to go up. I mean, it's been over a $50 million increase over the last 2 years. We cannot compare deals that were signed 2 years ago to ones that are signed today when the cap is $50-something million more than it was. So this deal for James Cook comes in at 4.3% of cap at signing, which is also 7th in the NFL. Christian McCaffrey, 7.44% of cap at signing, number 1. Saquon Barkley, number 2 at 7.4. Jonathan Taylor, number 3 at 6.23. Derrick Henry, number 4 at 5.37. Alvin Kamara, number 5 at 4.8. Josh Jacobs, number 6 at 4.7. James Cook, number 7 at 4.3. And if you remember all of the analysis that we had about where this deal should land, I drew that line right there under Josh Jacobs and said, it shouldn't be more. It shouldn't be more than Josh Jacobs. It winds up being the same APY, but about 0.5% less percentage of cap at signing. Again, we're talking about a deal under a different cap limit. I think this comes in exactly at a fair and reasonable dollar amount. Not the 15 that James Cook initially was looking for, but that's a negotiation, right? You can only come down. You're not going to go up on your asking price without new information. And so this comes in at a reasonable spot. That's one of the big words that has been on my mind this entire situation. And now that there's a resolution, I land on that word reasonable. And I'm also relieved. I did not enjoy dealing with this for the last several months. It's an unavoidable conversation. There's new information all the time, and you're just got to ride it out. But yeah, it's been annoying. It's been very annoying. So I'm relieved that it's over with, and I'm relieved that it reached a reasonable conclusion. Now, the part of this deal that is on the higher side is the guaranteed money at signing. James Cook gets $30 million guaranteed at signing. That's the third most guaranteed money at signing of any NFL running back contract. Number one, Saquon Barkley at 36. Number two is actually Ashton Genty, who's a rookie, top 10 pick for the Raiders. 35.89 guaranteed at signing. Then you have Cook at 30. Next is Derrick Henry at 24. So this is definitely a deal that maybe it doesn't reach the APY goals that James Cook had. It's certainly, in terms of guaranteed money at signing, puts him in a really good spot. So that's probably the big win for James Cook here. Now, obviously, with any contract, it's all about finding out the details. You know, I always say that. Wait for the details. And you should. But here's the good part about what we know right now. It's not going to be more than $12 million a season, right? Whenever we say wait for the details, it usually is because it tells a story about how the initial announcement was overinflated in terms of what the reality of the deal is. Wait for the details here won't tell us a story that leads it to a higher dollar amount where you start to get upset. I'm really comfortable with where this landed. Really comfortable. So that's kind of the terms of the deal. Coming up next, what I want to talk about is more of the implications on the team moving forward, the running back room, how the offense is optimized, growth areas for James Cook, and maybe some potential consequences of this deal as well. We got a lot to do in the next segment. Folks, be sure to stick with me. August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your shot at MVP, eyeing a division winner, or ready to crown a Super Bowl champion before week one even kicks off, this is your moment. So take a flyer on the MVP race. Maybe James Cook, well, maybe not James Cook, maybe Josh Allen repeats his NFL MVP. Maybe Baker Mayfield is the guy this year. Maybe you want to pick the Bills to win the Super Bowl. Maybe you think the Eagles repeat. Maybe you have a hunch on who's going to win some of these divisions. You could parlay those picks together. So visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now, because Futures Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game. This episode is presented by Yahoo Fantasy. Fantasy football is back. Fire up the group chat, get your draft board ready, and buckle up for a season filled with breakouts, busts, and all the overreactions we live for. It's all going down on Yahoo Fantasy. This year I'm playing on Yahoo Fantasy, and you should too, whether it's your first ever league or a veteran in your millionth league. I've used Yahoo Fantasy for years, and I love how smooth the draft experience is. It's easy to set up a league. The mobile app is awesome, and the message boards are really fun for all the smack talk. So to celebrate 28 years of fantasy football greatness, Yahoo is dropping 28 big new features over 28 days throughout August. To kick it off, they just dropped Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine Leagues, a killer new way to play fantasy football on Yahoo, where the lowest scoring team gets eliminated each week until there's one team left standing. With the season around the corner, now is the time to get your league together and give this new mode a try. If you're more into the classics, you can still play in head-to-head private leagues or join a public league. Stay tuned for more killer announcements, and start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football now at yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. James Cook, 4-year, $48 million contract extension to continue as the Buffalo Bills running back. And I am relieved that we have a resolution, and one that I'm satisfied with. You know, the paying running backs conversation is a challenging one. They're not hard to find, and there's been so many cautionary tales of what happens with a running back's second contract. But here's where I have some hope with this deal for the Bills. And it is about maximizing the player. And you can look back at some of the contract extensions that the Bills have given out in recent years, or even contracts, big commitments that haven't paid off, whether that's Trey White or Matt Milano and the injuries, Von Miller, Dawson Knox, some bigger deals that haven't necessarily led to the result that you're looking for. Here's where I have some hope for James Cook as a running back, where, again, there's been plenty of cautionary tales. James Cook turns 26 years old next month in September. Very low mileage running back. In college, 4 college seasons at Georgia, only 297 touches. That's it in 4 years combined. In 3 seasons in the NFL, 630 touches. That's not a lot of mileage on this guy. So young, and that low mileage really makes you feel good about the Bills being able to maximize this contract and get good returns. And you're talking about a guy in James Cook that I think has missed 1 game due to injury so far in the NFL. It's just 1 game, the ankle against the Jets last year. So I feel good about where this can go. I also feel really good about this running back room. James Cook, locked in on this 4-year extension. You got 3 more years of Ray Davis. You have 2 more years of Ty Johnson. That is really strong. I loved what this running back room was last year, and to know that it's intact gives me a lot of excitement, because this rushing equation for the Bills has been really good. It's an awesome rushing offense. And James Cook and his skill set is optimized in this offense. Those zone runs, that mid-zone, those cutbacks that he's able to do, the home runs, the receiving ability, it matters a ton for where this Bills offense can go. James Cook is optimized for this offense, and the offense is optimized with James Cook in it. Those explosive runs were huge, especially for a passing game last year in particular that didn't have a lot of explosive elements to it. To be able to get some of that back on the ground game is nice with James Cook. One of my favorite things about James Cook has been his growth. The Bills will tell you, they drafted this guy to come in and be a pass-catching back, right? That was the whole conversation with James Cook coming out of Georgia. Maybe even a guy that should switch to receiver. And so he goes from this pass catcher, right, this specialized type player, to his second year, he's the Bills' lead running back and has 1,500 yards from scrimmage. Then the next year, he has 1,300 yards from scrimmage and 18 touchdowns. And if you remember, coming out of 2023, it's like, hey, this production's really good, but fumbles are an issue, drops are an issue. You're not a super physical runner, and you can't really pass block. And you fast forward to 2024, and he corrected almost all of those issues. Fumbling went away. The drops mostly went away. And he was so much more consistent running behind his pads and showing physicality. Remember 2023? It's like James would go in and he'd have twinkle toes, and then Latavius Murray would have to come in for a few snaps. And then all of a sudden, James Cook would get it going. That really went away this past season. He's really grown. The vision has really grown. His ability, his vision in the hole is probably one of my favorite traits about him in terms of how he navigates zone runs. And then it's what he can do with his vision in the hole to set up those next moves that I think really separates him. And then he certainly is very elusive and can make these dynamic cuts where his feet can get well outside of his frame and he can plant and drive and change directions. I mean, there's a lot of dynamic skill there that's been developed that has completely changed the idea of what James Cook is going to be in the NFL. He's went from pass catching specialist to highly productive zone runner that can also catch the football, that hits home runs. So I love the growth. And so you start to think about, like, where does this go? I've seen nothing but growth from James Cook across 3 seasons. Do I think he's all of a sudden going to become extremely different? No, but I'm not going to dismiss that there's not more meat on the bone for where he can go. Now, look, as a 5'11", 190, 195-pound back, I'm not all of a sudden expecting him to be a significantly higher volume piece of the Bills' offense. I think having him around 50% makes sense. Now, that doesn't help, right, the previous conversations that we had about justifying a $15 million a year price point. But I think part of maximizing and optimizing James Cook moving forward is continuing to use him in that 50% type role where he is fresh later in the season, where he is not wearing down and can still give you those explosive elements to your rushing offense. So no, I don't feel like there's going to be a big urgency here to suddenly say, hey, now you're a paid running back at $12 million a season. Now we got to give you the ball 325 times to justify this deal. I don't think so at all. I think you continue to do what you're doing. And if James Cook was the player he was in 2024 for the duration of this deal, we're going to look back upon this very, very favorably. And James Cook's going to go down as one of the best Bills running backs of all time. So that's where I think this is headed. I'm very, very happy that we're having this conversation right now when we're talking about 12 million APY. Because that makes everything a lot more logical to me. If it was 15, my tone would be different. But it's not. It came in at a very reasonable number. Now, one thing that I do think a bit about is the consequences of this deal. You can't pay everybody, right? That's the reality. And I've even framed it this way, where you looked at Osiris Torrance, who's not eligible for an extension until after this year, Connor McGovern, James Cook, and maybe you kind of lump in David Edwards, but you never really thought you can bring all those guys back, maybe 2 or 3. Now, I don't know exactly how much the new NFL ESPN ownership deal is going to affect things, but it should put a lot more money back into the league, which means the salary cap goes up. And so maybe that information helps forecast the cap to continue to grow and you feel better about your ability to retain some more talent. But the good news is when you do forecast next year, your list of expiring contracts isn't overly daunting. It's McGovern. You still have Torrance signed through 2026. So it's McGovern, Edwards, Bosa, Epinesa, Milano. Like, those are the big names. It's very manageable, especially if the cap goes up. So if there is a consequence, the immediate consequence to me is probably this complicates things with Connor McGovern, because I think the Bills will and should prioritize Osiris Torrance as a drafted player that's younger with a pretty big ceiling moving forward. I think they'd prioritize him over McGovern. So maybe that's your immediate consequence. But if the cap goes where it could, I start to feel pretty good about maybe McGovern being back. But hey, maybe that's where Alec Anderson slots or Cedric Van Granger can slot. So we'll see how that all comes together. But with Aaron Comer in the mix, I feel good about the Bills being able to kind of figure that piece out. So James Cook back with the Bills. Saga over. Holden over. Locked up 4-year extension, $48 million coming in at a very reasonable, to me, $12 million a season. We'll learn more about this deal. We'll have more to discuss. We'll certainly break it down here for you. It's been an exciting morning. I get the All-22 film. I just finished downloading that. And then we get this James Cook extension. I'm very lucky. My daughter, Reese, still asleep here, allowing me to get this podcast done. So I'm going to get this podcast published and then check in on the baby. She's asleep. I got the monitor right here. Don't worry. I'm not neglecting my child to get this deal done. But excited for how this morning has played out for me. And then I'm excited to next get into the All-22 film and share my thoughts on our next episode. So don't miss anything. Make sure that you're subscribed. Would love it if you took a second to rate, review, and share the podcast. Have a great rest of your day. Go Bills. And I look forward to catching up with you again real soon.